مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everybody. Ahmed Abul Ila with you. Today our lesson is in grammar, grade 11, unit 1, lesson 6. This lesson will be grammar and listening. In the student's book, page 16, exercise A, B, and C. The grammar lesson will talk about verbs, stative verbs. We know that verbs in English can be classified into two categories, stative verbs and dynamic verbs. Dynamic verbs that we also name it action verbs, usually describe actions that we can take or things that happen. Stative verbs usually refer to a state or condition which is not changing or likely to change. Our objective at the end of the period, students should be able to correctly use stative verbs in grammatically correct sentences. Now, watch the following video that you will listen to explanation about the verbs, stative verbs. Now, read examples from the text on page 14. Notes the verbs in blue, which tense is used and why. Now underline at least 3 more examples of this type of verb in the text on page 14. Means, looks, feels, want. The present simple tense is used because the verbs are stative verbs. We can't use progressive tense here. Read the examples and note below and answer the questions. Ella thinks her flat is too expensive. She is thinking of finding a new one. Does the verb think have the same meaning in both sentences? No, it doesn't. The second question, in which sentence does the verb think express a state and in which does it expresses an action? The answer is, in the first sentence, thinks expresses a state. However, in the second sentence, the form is thinking expresses an action, meaning taking a decision. I think it is clear for you. The stative verbs such as see, like, remember, believe are not normally used in progressive tense because they express states. However, certain stative verbs can be used in progressive tense to express actions rather than states, but with a difference in meaning. Now, read the sentences and circle the correct options. You can read and answer. Was Chief Henry? Is tasting the soup to make sure that tastes just right, and so on. You can answer the following questions. Tom and I are seeing Pop on Saturday afternoon. Do you think we should buy him a gift? Number 3. Kevin loves his new job as an environmental photographer. He is preferring working outdoors to an office job. He prefers. Yes. Number 4. I am thinking of finding a new job because I want more money. What do you mean? You lost the car keys. We are having spaghetti for dinner tonight. Do you mind turning off the computer before you leave the office? Jane appears to be tired. She needs a break. I hope that the lesson is easy and you understand the rule and the difference between the dynamic and stative verbs. Now you can take more training by playing stative verbs games. Now we will move to the second lesson. It is a listening lesson. At first we will read the instructions and the words. In your opinion, what would you consider to be a responsible behavior in the workplace? What should employees do, or what should they avoid doing to be considered responsible? The answer is maybe reaching work late, wasting time doing nothing. And the answer for the second question, reach work on time, work properly, and do their best. This is the answer. And that question and answer will lead us to the listening. Try to read this tip and instructions before you listen. Okay, we will start listening now.
Listening. B. Listen to a career advisor giving a speech at a job fair and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning to all. Help yourselves to some coffee or tea and make yourselves comfortable. Everybody okay? Yes, well, the topic of today's talk is responsibility in the workplace. More specifically, we are going to discuss certain things you should avoid doing in the workplace if you want to earn a good reputation and gain the respect of your colleagues and your employer. First and foremost, it's important to avoid making excuses and blaming other colleagues. That kind of behavior shows that you are unable to take responsibility for your mistakes and that you can't cope with certain situations. It's always better to ask questions when you don't know what to do, instead of wasting time and effort trying to figure things out by yourself. Arriving late and missing deadlines are of course 2 more points on our what to avoid list. An employee who is always late and never remembers deadlines for important projects can easily lose his colleagues' or boss's respect. Naturally, attending a meeting unprepared is something to be avoided at all costs. Business meetings are an opportunity to show the rest of your colleagues other than your immediate team your true abilities. So it is always better to over-prepare in order to feel more comfortable and confident about your ideas. One more tip, avoid joking around all the time. It's one thing to use humour to create a pleasant working environment, and a totally different thing to be considered the office clown. You need to show others that you are a serious person who can use humour within limits. Last but not least, don't have a negative attitude.
After we have listened to the text, we will answer the question. The first question say, what does the career advisor say his talk will be about? Yes, taking responsibility in the workplace. The second question, what is the first piece of advice of the advisor gives. Yes, to accept responsibility for your work. Number 3, what should you do if you are unable to cope with a situation? Ask your colleagues to help or for help. What happens to employees who aren't on time? Yes, they aren't respected at work. The last question, how can business meetings help an employee to show his or her abilities? Goodbye and thank you very much for your paying attention. Thank you.
مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية. مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.